journalist, documentarian, author of Unmasked, a book all about Antifa, and senior editor at the Millennial. Andy Ngo joins me now. Andy, welcome back to the program. Great to have you back on Sky News. Now, first of all, before we get to the Charlie Kirk killing, I want to just get everybody on the same page about Antifa. Tell us about your experience with this group. I know you've had death threats, and is Donald Trump on the right track here?
So since the statement that was released by President Trump yesterday, the gaslighting from the media has begun, and they are saying that Antifa is a figment of the far-right's imagination. Well, I can speak that there weren't phantoms who beat me severely in 2019 to the point where I was bleeding out of my ears and from my eyes and suffered a brain bleed. Those injuries were real.
Tell us, Andy, more about Antifa. Who is behind it? How does it organize? Because one of the things that I hear people on the left say is, oh, well, it's just an idea, and you can't, fight a war against an idea because it's just an idea. But is there some more actual coherent organization to it? I know there are cells out there. There's all sorts of different groups. Explain a bit more about, the organization.
Well, first, their ideology and their methods and tactics, it's all meant to deceive the public. They want people to believe that to be part of Antifa simply means to oppose fascism, which is why you see lies from journalists say things like, well, the soldiers who fought against fascism during the Second World War, they were Antifa. And that is part of the deception. Antifa, in the contemporary form, the modern form, is a far-left, violent extremist, anarchist, communist movement, ideology, network, all of the above. And their agenda is specifically for the abolishment of the liberal democratic order. And at the head of that is to target the U.S., which is why, in particular, it goes after really attacking the Constitution and freedoms like speech and even democracy itself. They attack all these institutions with the hope of revolution. And so what's important to recognize is that in addition to the street militancy and being domestically in the US, they also function internationally. I'm sure many of your viewers and listeners may be familiar with the violence by Antifa in Melbourne, which happens, and there's Antifa in Europe. And these groups are connected through networks. And the next thing that needs to happen after this designation from President Trump is that the State Department needs to get involved and officially designate International Antifa as a terrorist entity and to sanction individuals who are involved in that, because there is information, tactics, flow, and training that is going in between the US and Europe, Canada.
And Andy, I want to take this back to the Charlie Kirk assassination from last week, because, there do seem to be connections between the ideology, as you suggested already, between the Kirk killing and Antifa ideology. But you've also revealed that one Antifa chapter has actually put out a report saying that the killing makes things more difficult for them. Tell us about this.
Yeah, so in the immediate hours, in first 2 days after the assassination, all of the Antifa all around the world were celebrating. And they were celebrating not just that Mr. Kirk was assassinated, but that somebody with his views was killed. And therefore they felt that it was emblematic, or he was representing the views of people maybe like you and I. However, from reading that after action report out of an Antifa group in Oregon, they were surprised at the unity in the backlash and anger at what happened. And they did not expect, for example, that people who posted support for the assassination on social media or wherever were then fired from their positions. They didn't expect that previously apolitical institutions, businesses issued, some of them, statements of support for Mr. Kirk's family. They really thought that this would be just another killing that would just be either ignored by the media, or that people could continue celebrating it on the left and nothing would happen. So they're quite concerned, and they are discussing ways for how to sabotage the right now, because they really fear that the pendulum changing, and that they've been able to thrive in an environment for years where they can dehumanize the opposition, call them Nazis, fascists, and therefore worthy of death. And they've had that tool and power with, unfortunately, support from rhetoric from Democrats, and they're afraid of losing that.
And finally, Andy, and I think you're absolutely right about that, because I think from, the Obama administration at least on, there was always this rhetoric dehumanizing people on the right, and so who's surprised where this has all landed? But finally, I just want to ask you more about the FBI investigation into some of the potential links between Charlie Kirk's alleged killer and some other groups and some of these radical queer groups and so on. I know the FBI is looking at Discord users who may have known about the killing. Would they have had connections to Antifa? And what is this Discord platform that I think maybe people, who just sort of know X and Facebook aren't familiar with?
It's an app where you can communicate with people. There are a lot of gamers on it, and you can create private channels where you can invite people in, and it's not public. It's not like posting something on Facebook or X where everybody can see it. This is people who join the group are invited, and it's curated within the channel. So from the leaks to the press about the chats in at least one of the known Discord channels that the suspect was in, that one was mostly apolitical. It was about gaming. We don't know the full extent of which other channels he may be a part of. And my overall sense of the picture that's emerged in Mr. Robinson is that he was a lone wolf type figure. And actually that is the ideal candidate for Antifa to radicalize.
Andy, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much. You're a great fighter for the truth, and you've really put yourself on the line on this. And you've got a great book out at the moment, a New York Times bestseller, as I said, called Unmasked, all about Antifa's radical plan to destroy democracy. Go out, check that out, and take a look at Andy's Substack as well. Thank you so much for your time, Andy.